Good morning. It's time for today's AM Minnesota program, and my guest is Barb Liebenstein. Barb, who along with her husband Paul, own and operate Wolf Creek Dairy in northern Rice County. And Barb, the reason for the call is I heard from a very reliable source that there's a big football game coming up in downtown Minneapolis this Sunday, and it is true, right?
It's true, and the only thing that would have been better about that game, Jerry, is the Great Vikings would have been part of it.
Yeah, that would have been something, but we're still going to have a great time. And the other reason for the call is I heard that Midwest Dairy and dairy farmers are going to have a presence at the Super Bowl. What a great opportunity to promote dairy.
It sure is, Jerry. Can you imagine putting dairy in unexpected places and anything being more unexpected than the Super Bowl?
Well, maybe I shouldn't have been real surprised because I know for quite some time dairy farmers, Midwest Dairy, have teamed up with the NFL. And not just in Minnesota, because I've been down in Kansas City at the Farm Broadcasters Convention, and they've had professional football players from Kansas City in the Midwest Dairy booth. So this is a big deal.
It is a big deal, and it's great to be able to bring it home. Fuel Up to Play 60 has been a premier health and wellness program for kids for the past 7 years. So it's really exciting to get to bring it to Minnesota and focus on it here.
Before we talk more about the Super Bowl and everything you're doing, because here in about 3.5 minutes we have to take a market break. So, Barb, in that time, let's do a little bragging about Wolf Creek Dairy. Now, I've often wondered, is it really a dairy operation, or is it just a classroom for all sorts of visitors? You get my drift.
I get your drift, Jerry, and we do see about 500 people a year on the farm tours, and we bring kids to the farm so that they get to experience a little bit of what it's like to be on a dairy farm and see where their milk comes from.
Are they sometimes surprised when they get to go up and look at those little calves and then the big cows and see how well they're taken care of?
I hope they're not surprised by how well they're taken care of, but what I really think they get surprised at, when you put 100 pounds of feed out and you say one cow can eat all of this in one day, and you tell them if you go home and fill up your bathtub full of water, that's how much of water a cow will drink in a day. They're amazed at the size and magnitude of these animals that can take something as simple as grass and turn it into something as healthy as milk.
And then you get the opportunity to maybe tell them how much milk a cow can produce in a day and maybe how much cheese that represents, or my favorite, ice cream or yogurt, frozen yogurt.
Absolutely, and it's very rare on those tours that we don't end up either making some ice cream with the kids, or we have a milk and cookie break at the end of the tour. So they get to not only remember what milk makes, but get to taste them too.
And of course, you get to work a little bit on moms and dads when they come too, and that's almost as rewarding as the kids, isn't it?
It certainly is, Jerry. You know, kids are 100% of our future consumers. But sometimes getting people back on the farm or getting them to the farm for the first time in their life helps remind them of where they came from, you know, that milk is good for them and they feel good about what they're putting in their bodies after a tour.
Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? To not only help the next generation live healthier, longer lives, but, of course, ulterior motive is to promote dairy products too. And what's wrong with that, right?
I can't think of anything wrong with that, Jerry, since it's such a healthy product. I mean, 9 essential vitamins and minerals in a cheap, or I shouldn't say cheap, you know, it's not cheap, but in an inexpensive package like milk. You can't beat that in any other product.
When I think about Mother Nature, I sometimes think that milk is Mother Nature's most perfect food. When you think about it, all mammals, when we're first born, what sustains those first critical months of life, everything comes from the nutrition that's in that milk. Now think about that. It has to be really something to help mammals grow and develop early in life.
Great, and especially develop is right. We have to have so that we can have, you know, strong teeth and bones, and calcium for that, and of course protein to develop our muscles, and all sorts of other products or components of milk help make us be healthy.
And that's what is kind of nice about teaming up with the NFL. Because talk about highly trained, well-oiled machine, a professional football player, all the training and the lifting weights, nutrition is critical for all those professional football players. That it's really nice to be able to tie it in then to milk and dairy products.
It sure is, Jerry. And you know, there's nothing more rewarding than listening to an NFL player get in front of a bunch of kids, and when they ask them, what do you eat to be healthy? And they say that they eat cheese and yogurt, and then they like to drink chocolate milk after a practice. I mean, we don't buy that. They tell us that naturally themselves because they really believe in the health components of milk. It's exciting and fun, and I know a lot of kids look up to these players and want to be as healthy as they are.
My guest in the program today is Barb Liebenstein, who along with her husband Paul own and operate Wolf Creek Dairy in northern Rice County. And Barb, let's pick it right up where we left off. We were talking about NFL players and they're visiting with kids, and the kids ask them what they drink, what they eat, and they said especially after practice they drink some chocolate milk. And I've read some studies that show chocolate milk actually helps the bodies recover after a strenuous workout.
They are in the middle of studying that, Jerry. There has been certain studies that have shown that, and we're getting that verified so we can, publish that kind of information. But as far as we've seen, that's what we're seeing, is that people are recovering a lot faster with chocolate milk.
Well, let's back up, Barb. You mentioned before the market break, too, that it was 7 years ago that dairy farmers teamed up with the NFL. How did that come about? Do you have any idea? Was it someone that said maybe we should partner with professional athletes, and it's grown into this?
So the dairy farmers of our nation have always been interested in child's health and wellness. From the very beginning, 100 years ago, when the National Dairy Board formed to figure out how we could make sure that people consumed this wonderful, healthy product. And along the way, naturally it came together that we have athletes that like to be healthy and promote healthiness, and they already had a program called Play 60. And we had a program called Fuel Up. And in fact, when you're watching a football game on TV, a lot of times you'll see that insignia on the field itself, and it'll say Play 60. And then about once a year for every football team, they'll have the whole Fuel Up to Play 60. And when that came together, that made the perfect package for health and wellness for children. And the NFL, that they like to look good, and they know working with kids really helps promote them in that way.
Well, I know that relationship kind of developed with some of the fast food restaurants, too. They were taking some pressure. Maybe some of their products weren't the most healthy. And by starting to offer with the kids' meals, things like that, those resealable containers of milk, well, then they could promote that healthy product, and it kind of made them look better.
That's right, Jerry. And I don't know if you know this, but dairy farmers have to pay money into a checkoff, and that helps promote research and promotion of dairy. And one of the things that we found, even before Fuel Up to Play 60, probably 10 years ago, creating partnerships between quick service food restaurants and us, and coming up with healthier menus was a win-win for everybody. So in fact, we have dietitians working inside of McDonald's that help come up with healthy ways to eat, and of course cheese and milk and yogurt are going to play a central part of that.
Well, let's go back to the Super Bowl. So what sort of presence will dairy farmers have at the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday?
Well, on Sunday, probably not a huge presence, other than you're going to see some Fuel Up to Play 60 logos around. But as far as leading up to the Super Bowl, we're going to have quite a presence. The Super Bowl experience, which is being held at the Minneapolis Convention Center right now, has a Fuel Up to Play 60 booth at it. And Exhibit Hall A, there's a 50-yard football field. That's being used by Fuel Up to Play 60 to talk about kids' health and wellness. And what they're doing there is they're bringing together NFL players and dairy farmers and a bunch of kids and talking about being healthy. And it's a really fun, interactive way for kids to get on a football field and get to meet a football star, and then get to talk to dairy farmers about where their food comes from. And it's really a lot of fun. Paul and I got to do that last night, and we got to see about 200 kids, and they were really engaged, and a lot of them have Fuel Up to Play 60 in their schools, so they already knew what that was all about. And the cool thing about that is those kids know that dairy farmers fund Fuel Up to Play 60. So when you're asking them questions, if they have Fuel Up to Play 60 in their schools, they already know quite a bit about dairy.
Well, this is kind of neat because, granted, the Super Bowl is a whole lot more than just the football game on Sunday. It's this whole week. So a lot of these things are being held at the convention center then.
That's right. And then on top of that, Jerry, on the 31st, which is a Wednesday, I think, tomorrow, yeah.
Yep.
There's a tailgate party, and Super Bowl Live is on Nicollet Avenue, and there's a whole bunch of activities going on down there. And on the 31st, they're going to tell everybody that dairy farmers help bring breakfast to 52 schools this year in Minnesota. And that's kind of an exciting thing as well.
A lot of these things, then, part of the Super Bowl experience at the convention center, that's for things for ordinary people. I mean, most of us can't even think about spending thousands of dollars to go to the actual game, but you can still kind of feel what it's like to be part of the Super Bowl then all this week.
Yep. And Jerry, this morning on my way up to a meeting, I heard that the average ticket price has come down about 20%. It's now about $6,600 to go see the game. So Super Bowl experience itself is kind of a way for us who are, NFL fans to go get a little taste of the NFL. They bring a moving football Hall of Fame display there. They've got a ton of interactive activities for the kids, and I think some adults, too, to play. And so it's a pretty busy place. When Paul and I talked to people last night, there were people that had been there for about 5 or 6 hours, Jerry. So if you're a real football fan, that definitely is something that you might want to take in.
So in Hall A is a 50-yard football field with all sorts of things to meet players, promoting dairy, but there's things all around the convention center and the other halls and too, and outside and even downtown Minneapolis on Nicollet Mall.
Right, absolutely. It's a hopping place. It's places, different venues are having bands and musicians come in. I know that on Saturday I'm going to be at a thing called an ad cap, and what it is a mini Shark Tank, and they have invited 60 kids from schools around Minnesota to come in and present an idea of how to get the farm to the school. And whatever their ideas are, farmers are going to be there to help mentor them with how they talk about it to the judges, and also get to talk a little bit more about agriculture as a career. So it's kind of a win-win for all of us. And when the kids, after they get done making their presentation, they're going to be judged, and the winning teams are going to be awarded $1,000 to their schools to help bring their plan to life.
You mentioned you and Paul were there last evening with, a couple hundred kids. I'll bet they were excited with a lot of enthusiasm.
It's so much fun, Jerry, and we were handing out eye black, the stickers that go under your eyes to help deflect the sun. And they said fuel up to play 60 on them, and those kids put those on immediately. And then they also, on that sticker pack, was a milk mustache, and I was amazed at how many kids put that milk mustache on, too.
Did you maybe get a few moms and dads to go along and put it on, too?
Yep, there's nothing better than a big kid, so, yep, they did.
You and Paul were there. Were other dairy farmers, so pretty much all the time, will they be dairy farmers there, too, then, throughout the week?
Yep, throughout the week, there's going to be at least 2 to 4 dairy farmers at the Fuel Up to Play 60 booth. And they will be talking to the kids when they're out on the field for their Play 60 zone. That's where the kids are invited in.
Now, you have professional football players here at the same time, different times throughout the day to interact with the kids, too, then.
Exactly, and we're there together. It was so cool last night. Eric Kendricks is a Viking, and what a nice guy. He was awesome on the field with the kids, and then when he came over to have his pictures taken as part of the Fuel Up to Play 60 booth, he was very generous and kind to everyone. He went way out of his way to make everybody happy make everyone happy that was there. And I felt bad for him because, I think about dairy farmers and our hands get a little bit stiff and sore over the years. This guy, every time someone shook his hand, here's a football player, they're going to shake it really hard, and that poor guy, his fingers are all, swollen and big, and the season had just ended. But he smiled through every one of those handshakes and had a big smile on his face for his pictures, and he was really a class act.
You mentioned pictures. That was going to be my next question, if cell phones and pictures can be taken at the same time. So, sometimes you go to these things and they'll say no cell phone photography, that type of thing.
Yep, and that's not the case here. In fact, at that booth, twice a day, there's going to be a football player. I know Ben Lieber was there in the early afternoon, and then we had Eric in the afternoon. And they, they're there to have their picture taken, and the staff in the booth will take the picture for the folks that are there, so everyone can get in the picture.
It's just amazing that dairy farmers can have a presence at an event, a week-long event like this, and I think it's pretty safe to say, Barb, that without the checkoff, Minnesota dairy farmers wouldn't have a presence at the Super Bowl like this?
I don't think we would, Jerry. And again, who would expect it? Putting dairy in unexpected places is one of the most interesting things I think we've done as a checkoff.
As this type of event, dairy farmers in different states that have hosted the Super Bowl, have they been able to have this presence, or is this kind of unique to Minnesota and Minnesota dairy farmers?
They actually have had some presence at probably the last 3 or 4 Super Bowls. This year we've ramped it up because I forgot to mention, Jerry, and thanks for giving me time to do this. At that Fuel Up to Play 60 booth, there's also a virtual reality game. And it's based on a real dairy farm, and the kids have to put on the virtual reality goggles, and they go in and they are looking for gold, undeniably dairy coins. And so that kind of bumped things up a notch for what next year's Super Bowl and Fuel Up to Play 60 is going to have to try and match.
Are there displays, too, then, kind of talking a bit about the dairy industry? Because we want to do as much educating as possible while we're having fun.
Right, and there's screen TVs that are playing while people are standing in line to get those pictures taken. And, of course, dairy farmers are there, answering questions. And, again, that opportunity on the field to be able to talk directly to the kids and their parents.
It's so neat that the professional athletes, the Vikings that you had there, are nice people. Have you ever been a fan of, maybe it was a movie star, maybe it was a performer, maybe it was a professional athlete, and then sometime later you find out in real life they aren't kind of nice people? And isn't it rewarding when you find out they are nice people like the Vikings?
Yep, and what really amazes me, Jerry, certainly the people that aren't that nice are the ones who are going to get a story told on them. But again, the ones that are just genuine people don't get enough praise for being good. And like I say, that was the cool thing about Eric. And I'm sure there's lots of other football players just like him out there that are doing their job. And really, football players and dairy farmers kind of similar.
Very dedicated,
they work hard. Yep.
Yeah. What would your advice be, Barb, to somebody that maybe would want to go down to the convention center? It's never fun going to downtown Minneapolis. Normally, I would expect there's lots of people, and I keep hearing on the state news about different roads. Take the bus down or maybe the light rail. That would be your advice to get to downtown?
Okay, Paul's going to kill me for telling the story, but I'm going to do it anyway.
We won't tell him.
Yeah, so the whole radio world can tell him. But anyway, we did take a bus. They're having shuttle buses from different points around the cities. And for Rice County, the closest one would be in Richfield, which is right in Bloomington off of 494 and Penn. And we got on a bus, and we got to the convention center. They parked us or dropped us off 2 blocks from the convention center. We got in. We got out. It's really dark out, and we're in downtown Minneapolis, and we have to find our bus stop to get back to Bloomington. And we walked for quite a ways and had some people that were happy to give us directions in the wrong way. And finally we found our bus stop, and it was so easy, Jerry, once we were pointed in the right direction. And it really didn't take that long. People are really friendly, and we were back to our car, and we didn't have to bring a car downtown. The metro system has really set it up nice for people to get downtown without bringing a car.
Because it's never fun driving to downtown, let alone something like this. So, or maybe you could go on the Metro website, and they'd have maps and information where you could figure out, make sure you knew which bus stop.
Exactly, and it's so simple. Metro Transit has an app, and you can pull it up, and then it has special events, and it just takes you right to the site where you can learn where to get on the bus to get there and get on the bus to get back to your car. So super easy, and the reason I say that Paul would not like this story is because he said that he was getting a little bit nervous, and we really were only 3 blocks away from the convention center and got back on the bus and got home. So it was all good and all fun.
The last time I was at the convention center was for Pork Congress, and I had a flat tire just after I pulled out of the ramp right next to the convention center. So I got to block 1 lane of traffic while I was changing a flat tire.
Oh man! And are you ready to be on the team at the racetrack?
Well, I mentioned to Louise, maybe it would be fun to go down and do something like this. I thought there would be something for ordinary people that can't afford $6,200 a ticket to go to the actual game. I mean, it's been, 25 years since the Super Bowl was here. Another 25 years, I might not be able to walk around too well. So it would be fun to just go and see the experience and see all the activities.
And I am going to guess that come towards the end of this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the people watching is going to be outstanding. I can't imagine people coming from all over the country to, the icebox of America to watch a football game and what they may or may not be wearing and, what they have to say about our climate. So I think just that alone would be fun.
Yeah, it would be. What kind of hours is everything going on at the convention center? Does it kind of start mid-morning, and then later on in the evening it's over? Do you have any idea on the schedule when all these things are going on, Barb?
Yep, the Super Bowl experience is from 10 to 10 every day. Sunday it ended at 8 o'clock, I think, just so people could get home or whatever. But now they'll run 10 to 10 from now on till Saturday. It won't be on Sunday, but Saturday. And then the Super Bowl live, which is what's on Nicollet, I'm not really sure. You'll have to check the website for that. But there's music, that's free concerts going on down there throughout the week.
Now, do you and Paul get to go back again for another stint at the Fuel Up to Play 60, 50-yard football field?
No, we did our time, and we were happy. We were happy to get to go, but there were 40 other dairy farmers who wanted the same opportunity to talk to our future consumers and our current consumers, and so we all share, and hopefully everyone has as much fun as we did.
When you were interacting with the kids and maybe some of the moms and dads, talking about the dairy industry and the nutritional value of milk and how you take care of your livestock, were they interested in learning?
Some of them really wanted to know, what we do on the farm. And the biggest question we always get is, do you ever get a vacation? And but they definitely want to know, are the cows cold this time of year? Are they warm? How are they doing when it's like this? And those type of things. So, they're definitely engaged.
Well, we only have a minute or two left, Barb. Is there something else we should have mentioned that we haven't so far?
Boy, Jerry, I think we did a good job. Of course, it helps having someone good to interview you, so thanks for that. But no, I think, the other thing about Fuel Up to Play 60, Jerry, is it's not only the NFL and dairy farmers, but the USDA has kind of put their blessing on this as well. They are very much behind this program and support it in every way that they can. So it's nice to have all of those entities come together. And again, really, as much as it is to promote milk and hopefully, get consumers to use it, it's really about the kids and helping them have a healthy lifestyle, especially now. Jerry, when I talked to the kids yesterday and I said, what's your favorite activities? And when some of them were saying video games and things where they weren't outside playing, that was kind of hard to take. And Eric Hendricks comes out and he says, I played outside till the street lights came on. And I thought, I hope all you kids heard him say that, because that's what we're looking for, healthy kids that eat well and play a lot.
Because when we were growing up, we didn't have the option of sitting there playing on our cell phones or our iPads, did we, Barb?
No, we didn't. My dad cut the cord off our TV in the summer, and we put it back on in the wintertime. So, yeah, get outside.
Yeah, and play and have fun and get exercise at the same time.
Absolutely.
Well, Barb, appreciate your time. Always great working with the dairy industry, and I hope everyone checks out all the activities, especially the Fuel Up to Play 60 event at the Minneapolis Convention Center in Hall A, correct?
That's right.
Thanks, Barb. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jerry.
Barb Liebenstein. And that concludes today's AM Minnesota program.